Hi, Lucas.
Hello, good to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different than we had expected, huh?
I kind of like it actually because, now we can learn in the distance with many topics, right? So we are not dependent on the location or any place. So
Yeah.
in some sense,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, so I guess so. I have this idea that I kind of starting to make more and more these vlogs about from agricultural perspective. So yeah, I thought I kind of can you hear me properly?
Yes, I can hear you properly. Yeah.
Okay. So that's why I thought that vertical farming could be one of the great options as well to talk. And since I had a class with you, so I will record the conversation and the video and so on. So and we will see what kind of outcomes we will have.
Okay, good. I'm very curious what you will make out of it.
Yeah. All right. So then let's start. So first of all, thank you, Professor Leo, for joining for your classes and for participating in my vlog. Yeah. So firstly, maybe could you explain why and how you became a plant scientist? If it's, of course, a good reference to tell, but yeah.
Okay. How I became a plant scientist? Well, then we have to go long back in history. I grew up on a farm, and my parents, they had, let's say, a mixed farm, many different things. But my parents tell me that I was always interested in plants, and when I was very small, and when they asked me, what type of job do you later want to be, then I always said I want to work with flowers. So when I was already very young, I wanted to work with plants, and in particular with flowers. I've always kept that interest. So also for me, when I wanted to go to a university, for me it was good, or it was quite clear that I wanted to do something with plants. So that's why I studied in Wageningen.
Yeah.
Initially, mainly wanting with flowers, and then when I graduated, I got the option to do a PhD research. And initially I said, well, no, it should be on flowers, but I ended up with a topic on cucumber. And then I liked very much the cucumber, and throughout the years I've been working now with all type of crops grown in greenhouses, in vertical farms, so vegetables, ornamentals. So it has been a passion for me to work with plants, grow plants, to understand them from, well, when I was a small child, and I'm still very interested in it.
Yeah, so I guess then we can jump directly. What about vertical farming? How the development appeared, the horticulture, greenhouses, and I guess how the term appeared in your life then.
Okay, yeah, it appeared in two ways in my life. I started research already 30 years ago that was focusing on understanding the dry matter partitioning in cucumber, but for application in greenhouses. But even for that, we did do the research already in climate-controlled rooms, so under artificial light, because we wanted to control the conditions very much. So initially, it was just an application from the research side. And now gradually in the years, so let's say since the last 10 years, vertical farming became also that we got a lot of interest from the industry about growing plants completely indoor, no use of solar light. And I see it in fact as a next step from greenhouse horticulture. So if you look back in history, initially we only grew plants outside, then growers started to use some very simple structures, and gradually throughout the year technology level increased, the level of control increased in greenhouses. Initially it was then, there was just cover from the rain, let's say, like that, or protecting a little bit from the cold. Then it came a heating system. Now sometimes you have a cooling system. It became CO2 control, humidity control. Now there comes in light, all in greenhouse, more control. Yeah, then I think a vertical farm, or an indoor farm, just how we would like to call it, is a next step in the level of how we can control the production process of plants.
So, okay, so then you're mentioning quite a lot of ingredients, how to make this vertical farming to work. So what are the latest challenges in development of vertical farming? and when we are talking how to run it profitably, right? Because it's a business form eventually.
Yeah, so if we look at vertical farms, so we can say, well, we can look at what advantages are, but if your question is, well, what are the challenges? The challenges, I would say there are the two major challenges, I think, at this moment is the cost price. So the products grown in the vertical farm are relatively an expensive system. There's also a lot of energy use. We need electricity for the lamps. That's still, we're using LEDs. They are very efficient, but still we need a lot of electricity. So the bottlenecks are energy use and cost price. So that's also what we think for our research is where we need to improve the system, and also where we think that we can do a lot. And it starts with improving the light use efficiency. That means that we can grow with the same amount of light more crop, or the same crop with less light. And if we need less light, we save on electricity, so from a sustainability point of view it's good. It saves cost. Also, if you would need less lamps, we also save on investment cost. And then, so we think we can reduce the cost quite a bit from what it is now. Probably still, it will not in the coming years, it will be a very cheap system. Something, even if it is not very cheap, it can be okay if the value is higher. So I think then there is the opportunity in the vertical farm, we can control the crop so well, we can also create a better quality compared to conventional products. It is very clear that we can make a different quality depending on what conditions we choose. So that is now what we have to make. To bring into practice, that we really know, okay, with this and this light, with this and this temperature, CO2, air, humidity, water, nutrient supply, what does the crop need, what type of quality do we want, then we can create a much better quality. And then even if then the cost price is higher, if it has a higher value, it can also be sold at somewhat higher price, and then it can be profitable. Because in the end, if it would not be profitable, it will not expand. Companies can start, but if it's not profitable, they will soon stop.
So I have several questions. So I'm wondering which direction to go, but I guess I would go for. So also in the classes you lately mentioned the CO2 emissions, right? So there is this goal to go CO2 emissions free, right? So it could be super sustainable, and but also you mentioned that it's economically not feasible at the moment. So so how to achieve it? How to achieve it right now? Those sustainable goals, and how to achieve it within the 2030 within the
So I think most of the energy uses needed is for the lighting, for the lamps. Besides that, it's also for the whole climate control system, but the majority is for the lighting. So that is electricity. Well, the simple answer could be that they say, well, but then we use solar panels or we use wind energy, and then we can have it in a sustainable way. But I think even if we use this type of energy, there's still a need to reduce the need for it. But so the simple answer would be, well, we use solar cells, we use wind energy, and we can do it in a sustainable way. Nevertheless, I still think also for those type of electricity, there's a demand of reducing it.
2030,
that is. I think these systems will always need electricity for the lights. Then what we can make the system much more efficient as it is now, much more efficient, because if we understand how much light does a plant need, what moment of the day, what spectrum, in combination with an optimal other climatic conditions, also new varieties, because at this moment there has been no breeding for vertical farms. There has been breeding, but there are not yet cultivars, commercial cultivars, which are specifically bred for vertical farm. We do know there's a lot of genetic variation, and it's quite clear that the cultivars optimal for, let's say, field grown are not the same cultivars for a greenhouse. And the optimal cultivar for a vertical farm will also be a different one. So definitely, if you think about 2030, by that time, I expect there will also be new varieties which are more adapted or more fit to the conditions of a vertical farm. So all those aspects together will lead that we need less energy. There's also a lot of improvement still possible in the whole technology of the climate control. And we could also think of, if there is a surplus of heat, can we connect it to, for instance, offices or houses which may need heat, in particular in wintertime. So in wintertime, if there is some waste heat from a vertical farm, can we use it by the houses?
So I guess in this case you're referring mostly to the Netherlands application, how to keep on,
Yes, of course. If you would go to, let's say, the hot regions of the world, then the use of the heat, then there is no, it doesn't make sense to use the heat. If you would go more northern or more countries where have a colder winter, then there can be more use of it. But indeed, it depends on where we are located.
I guess there was some sort during the conference that about international conference in vertical farming, there was one presentation about the different vertical farms across the regions, right? So they were analyzing the feasibilities and potentials, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Indeed, and I think if you look in the Netherlands, we have a relatively mild climate. So we have our winters are, I would say, too cold and too dark, but not that extreme cold, not that extreme dark. Our summers are warm, but not really hot. So usually if you go, let's say, from the Netherlands more to the south, it's usually getting in summertime hotter and drier, which is not so good for producing a crop. If you go to the north, the winters are less favorable. And if you go around the globe, if you would go to the east, you get more towards the land climate. So then that means winters are colder, summers are hotter. For a vertical farmer, I would say it doesn't matter so much what the outside climate is. That makes that, because we have a relatively mild climate, the advantages of a vertical farm in the Netherlands are probably less than in many other countries. So in a country with a harsh climate, or harsh to produce in winter, or harsh to produce in summer, a vertical farm has more advantages than in regions like the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm. So overall, the advantages of vertical farming, then maybe in just a few, aspects.
I'm not sure if you understood. Yeah, so I would,
overall advantages of vertical farming, just Just the several words. What's the advantage versus?
Sorry. Yeah. So if you ask me what are the advantages of vertical farming, I start with this full control over the production process, such that we can be sure every day of the year how much we produce and of a defined quality. Besides that, it is if we do it in a proper way with very high level of hygiene, such that we keep all pests and diseases out. Still, we would need also a very efficient monitoring system. We don't need any pesticides. So if there is no pest or disease coming in, you also would not need chemicals to get rid of them. So this, abandoning pesticide use, I think, is an important one. Water use is in some parts of the world very important. Water use can be very limited. In a vertical farm, we can go down to about 2 to 4 liters of water per kilogram of vegetable. If I compare it to a greenhouse in the Netherlands, where it is probably 17 liters of water per kilogram vegetable, if you would go to the open field in the Mediterranean, probably it's at least 60 liters of water per kilogram of vegetable, then you still do it already probably in a very good way. So this saving on water in a vertical farm is tremendous. Saving on nutrients is very important. the use of nutrients is just for the uptake of the plant in a system in the field. You supply nutrients, and usually there is leaching together with the water of the nutrients down to the groundwater or to the surface water. While in a vertical farm, continuously reusing it, there's no emission of that. So it's both from we don't want emission of nitrates or phosphates, but anyhow we want to reduce the use of all the nutrients. So reduction of water use, reduction of nutrient use. Then there is a very high production level per square meter. And in particular, if you think that we can grow many layers above each other, you need only a very limited amount of land. Well, and then it depends a bit on where we are in the world. In some areas it's not so important. But if you think that we want to produce it very nearby where the consumers are living, then often, or the soil would not even be feasible to grow plants outdoor, or there is not much land available. Well, for these types of systems, we don't need much land.
So I guess when we are sometimes in the articles they're mentioning that vertical farming is maybe a solution to feed the population, right? And in the classes you were referring that you were quite skeptical because it's quite high quality, quite in specific locations and so on. So could you elaborate and explain?
I can elaborate on that. I think what vertical farming could play a role is in producing fresh vegetables. Technically, I can grow any crop. It doesn't matter. I can grow technically any crop, but I don't. The advantages, I think, come in particular with a little bit more high-value products, with fresh products, where it is also more important to produce them nearby where the consumers are living. If you're talking about feeding the world, then it should also be about corn and so wheat, maize, these type of crops, potatoes. Relatively cheaper products that can be easily stored, can be transported easily with a long duration. So I think for those crops which have in such high bulk with a low value, easily stored, I think this system is too expensive. So I see this vertical farming in particular for fresh products. To that extent, it can have a very important role in food production. But, well, if it is feeding the world, we need probably we should eat more, in general, more fresh vegetables. But besides fresh vegetables, we also need, let's say, the starch products or the protein products.
Sure. Yeah. Also, regarding so you also appeared on this YouTube series about artificial intelligence, right? So what is happening? Yes. What about the artificial intelligence in vertical farming?
Okay, what I think in a vertical farm, it is all so controlled, well defined. More and more we get the opportunity, sensors are being, more and more plant sensors are being developed. So we get in these systems, I think, having the sensors of all the environmental conditions, sensors on the plants, and then we have simulation models on how the plants are functioning. These sensors, together with simulation models, can predict how the growth is, but also can be used to control the conditions in the vertical farm. So what I see, what will happen in the end is that probably we have somewhere a control room, and that control room can be in Wageningen or it can be anywhere on the world, where we arrange the settings for an indoor farm somewhere else on the world. Probably still someone needs to be at the location, but not many people anymore, and we can control them quite remotely, the system. And that is what I think will develop further and further in the coming years. And maybe that's getting now more actual also with this corona crisis, where we are getting afraid of transport, where we're getting afraid of contact, many people together. So I wouldn't be surprised that this gives also very much of a stimulus to a more rapid development of all this artificial intelligence in controlling production processes, at a distance.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting angle.
Yeah, and maybe also maybe there comes now also more demand on local food production, or in general local production of anything. So then it could be that there is also getting more demand of food production on places where now hardly any food is produced, or where it would be very difficult to produce them outdoor or in a greenhouse. Well, a vertical farm, strictly speaking, could be done anywhere. And still, maybe the control can be done remotely by, if you have internet access.
But what about locally produced, right? But sometimes people are referring, organic farms, and then sometimes these Dutch grown tomatoes in greenhouses, tasteless, and so on. What about the taste and
Okay, yeah. So there are two things. I think the one about taste. In a vertical farm, because we can control so well the climate, the below ground conditions, we can control the quality very much. And I'm very much convinced, what I've seen in our research, that we can create a much better taste and a much better, in general, quality. But we have to make the right choices. It is not by definition that it is better in a vertical farm. No, we can choose what quality we want to go for. If you really go for the best quality, we can make a quality which tastes better, which has a better nutritional value than grown somewhere else. But if you say, well, we are only interested in kilograms and we go just for the maximum kilograms and we don't care about quality, then we might end up with a crap quality. So it is a choice of the grower to produce a much better quality. Is it organic or not? That's a different type of question. I would say this is not, at least how the definition of what is organic production in Europe, this is not organic. So we cannot call it like that. In many aspects, it can be very sustainable, what I indicated already before, though there is still a lot of electricity use. So that's the point where, with respect to sustainability, what we have to take care of. Organic production is not, whether it's sustainable or not, organic production has it's a philosophy of growing in soil. It has it's a different type of system. This is not organic, but it can be sustainable. It can be sustainable for a high quality production. So it is a different production system. And then in the end, there will be consumers maybe who want organic production, or some others who say, well, I want to have sustainable, safe food, locally produced. Well, on those aspects, a vertical farm could meet the demands.
Mm-hmm. And so maybe the final question would be also related a bit of these futuristic ideas. And also I've seen NASA participation, right? Space, vertical farming, of course, overtaking the other planets and so on. Elaborate on this topic.
Okay. Well, it is very challenging to think about, how to produce food on, let's say, on Mars. And in particular, because there are quite some people who really would love to go to Mars. Well, then it is a long journey. Once you are there is no food, so you have to bring all your food with you, very dried. So for people living there would really be a demand of producing their own food. Well, to produce food there, you will need an indoor farm. You can't grow them outdoor on Mars. There's cosmic ray, the climate is there very harsh, the atmosphere. So you will need an indoor building. So for us, we see many connections in how we would grow. What do we need for an indoor farm on Earth? Okay, to extrapolate or to think about what would we need on Mars. And if you do it on Mars, you also have to think very much in a circular system, because, what can we bring there? Well, not much, because it's very expensive to transport it there. So we need to reuse the water, we need to reuse the air, we need to reduce all the nutrients. So I think thinking of what is needed for those type of systems is also very beneficial for application on Earth, because that's also on Earth in the end we need to be take very much care of how we use the resources. If it is about feeding the planet Earth by producing on Mars or Moon, I would say that's nice to fantasy as a fantasy, but I don't think that is realistic. So if you produce their food, I would say we should do that because people would like to be there. Well, then if they are there, they will need some food. They can eat dried material which they brought from Earth, but they also would like, in particular, some fresh food which could be produced over there.
All right, sounds good. So I guess there is definitely plenty of material for me to look into it and to convert it into a video. So I thank you for sharing your ideas and expertise and knowledge with me. And let's see how it will evolve.
Okay. Well, Lucas, I wish you good luck. A very nice initiative, and let me know when you have it finished.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how overall is going on for you with your research at the moment, or classes with doing these?
Yeah.